Hi, guys, and welcome to Tickers, the series on the Limitless podcast, brought to you by me, Thaon Sims, and of course, my co host, as always.
Matthew Preston, hello.
What's up, guys? I've changed the format a bit, but great to be here, Matthew. Great to be here. It's a lovely Sunday night. Yeah, recording this in Mandeville, actually. And we're bringing to you guys a very special stock. Special to us. Hopefully, you
What's special in
guys.
your heart?
Yeah.
Or in your
Just definitely.
portfolio?
That's a good one. Not my portfolio, but my mom's portfolio actually. And it's done us good. Right? Done us pretty good. It was also in my portfolio. I've been in and out of dollar, so how do how do you feel about the stock?
Yeah, we'll get into it in the episode.
Sounds perfect to me. So, I mean, guys, we do a lot of these kind of episodes where we, this is Tickers for those who are new. This is where we just talk about listed companies. We take a look at deep dive, just how they make money and those kind of stuff. So if you guys ever like this kind of content, just drop a like there. If you love it, then hit that subscribe button because we are trying to get to 1,000 views by the end of this year. So
1,000 subs.
1,000 subs. Yeah, I remember 1,000 subs. We've gone quite a few views. Thank you so much, guys. We do appreciate that. How many views have we gotten so far?
Like 30,000.
Nice. All thanks to you guys. So keep it up, guys. And if you have a friend that might be into or partially into finance or want to start investing or so on, send them this podcast. Let them subscribe, and call that their Christmas gift. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. So what I will be doing is we'll be talking a little bit about DOLLA Financial. So the ticker is DOLLA, DOLLA. I'm going to be sharing my screen right now just to show you guys, a little bit about DOLLA. So,
And this is just a reminder, guys, that this the ticker series. You guys can actually pick or help pick, the next company that we review. So if there's a company that you'd want us to review, you can always drop a comment below on the YouTube video, and we'll possibly look into that company.
Let's get into it. So DOLLA Financial Services Limited. It's a Jamaica microfinancial company. They provide, personal loans, business loans. They target underserved populations, like the unbanked and underbanked. They generate a lot of revenue by offering these loans and earning interest on the loans that they lend out. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Basically, what they do is they have cash. Let's say Preston wants to borrow some cash from them. He just goes in branch or online or so on, sign up, and says he wants to borrow $1 million Jamaican dollars or 100,000 Jamaican dollars. Let's just say he wants to buy into one of my companies or so on. So he borrows $100,000 and has to pay it back over time. And so it's just in the smallest sense of the word, it's a loans company. Now let's talk about the loans that they do. So some of the loans, they split them up, as you guys can see, into business and personal loans. And so in the business loans, you have certain things like fix up your bar. I saw lots of these, and you can check them out on their website. They're actually listed pretty well on their website. But fix up your bar, that's literally exactly how it sounds. If you do have a bar or so on, you can borrow some money to renovate the bar, fix it up, maybe get some working capital so you can deal with like inventory management, buying some certain liquors or so on, so you can fix up the bar. One and Ready, that one was pretty cool. I think their names are also very, very good. Like whoever is doing this marketing for DOLLA probably need a raise still, because I think these names are pretty catchy. So you have One and Ready, is especially for taxi drivers. And I put some of the quotes. So taxi operators, if you want to upgrade your vehicle, maybe even buy a new vehicle or so on, right, you can qualify for this loan. And they actually have a special going on with this. I think in St. Thomas, there's a special going on. I'm not sure if it's just St. Thomas or if it's just throughout the island, but if you use the loan to buy a taxi or to buy a vehicle, basically you can win another vehicle free. Like you have a chance to win another vehicle free. It's like almost like a raffle. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool still. Great marketing. As I said, whoever's doing their marketing, yeah, tell them Thaon says they need a raise. Then you have SME grow. So, this is just for small to medium-sized enterprises if they need cash for, business operations, bridge financing, asset purchases, those kind of things. You have the elite, which is similar, business customers, but managing cash flows. So let's say, you really need to pay, you're waiting on some cash coming in as a business owner. Let's say you do a project over there for Preston, and you're kind of running low on cash right now, but you're waiting on funds to come through, and you just really and truly, really need some funds right now before you get your income. Yeah, you can use this. Then
you need to pay your workers.
Yeah, payroll. You need to meet payroll for sure. And you just don't have the cash right now, but you get to get next week. Yeah. And then of course you have others like the microfunder. When you need to purchase some equipment or complete a deal, you can use microfunder to get things going. And then you have the personal loans, which I put over here. So you have Schooler, which is, it's October now, so we're kind of out of back to school. It's end of October. But, you can use that to purchase like school equipment. I don't know if you can use it to maybe pay down tuition or something like that. So there's that. School fees, those kind of things. For pay. So that's if you want to like style your home and so on. You pay over time. Let's say you want to buy some furniture and you don't want to use like Courts Hire Purchase. You can just borrow some money from them. Appliances, equipment, those kind of things. And then you have other loans too. You have MediPay. I thought this one's pretty cool. I guess I'm probably biased being a doctor, but you can use this for a medical procedure if you need assistance with financing. So let's say it's a medical, or they even have cosmetic procedures, which I found interesting. Like let's say you want a BBL, you can really go to Dollar and say, "Oh, I have this BBL booked in Damrep. Can you lend me some money to just, is that a thing?" One way to find out, I'm gonna call them and ask them still. Yeah, and then it's funny because they could partner with other medical companies and do that. So suppose you want to partner with like a medical associate. Suppose Dollar and Medical Associates sign like some MOU or something like that, where if a patient really and truly needs a particular procedure, at being done at Medical Associates, let's say they're doing like a hernia repair, but they don't have the upfront cash, Dollar could finance them, and Dollar pays Medical Associates, the patient pays Dollar over time, and everybody's happy, and the patient gets their surgery. So I think that's pretty cool.
And you mentioned Medical Associates, but I was thinking, I think Dequity. Well, I guess we'll talk about it later, but Dequity is one of the largest shareholders in Dollar, and then Dequity bought into a hospital, Royal Medical. So then I would think that maybe they could have that partnership with Royal Medical. So
Quite
that
possible.
if someone needed these procedures or something like that. But I think one of the things, I think they even mentioned braces. I think if you want braces, that'd be one that you could get to.
Yeah, I wonder what else comes under cosmetic. Is braces really? That is a cosmetic process. It can be. It can also be therapeutic, but yeah, okay, fair. And then you have the green energy loan. So they have a partnership with RTA Biz Energy Solutions, right? Where they provide financing for alternative energy solutions like solar panels, solar water heaters, lithium ion batteries, generators, hybrid inverters. So I can see who their clients are. I think this is pretty cool, who a lot of their clients are. So based on these kind of loans, you can kind of see who would be applicable, and it's a wide range of people. And I mean, business and personal loans, that's very, very, very broad, and you can kind of see who they're targeting. Like taxes, back to school, medical industry, renewable industry, all of those things, energy. So yeah, and of course entrepreneurs. So I think that's
Mm-hmm.
pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. I think
Then now,
I
oh, go
think
ahead,
something
bro.
important to mention would be I don't know if I mentioned it before, the percentage breakdown, because even though you did mention the personal loan side, they
Mm-hmm.
are primarily business loans.
Yeah,
So if you're looking at them as a loan company, or people, depending on how you look at it, they're competing with the banks in a way for
yeah,
giving out loans. Some people would even consider them a bank in a way. But they they are mostly business loans. I don't know what the percentage is now, but I think it's like 80% or so, or the vast majority are business loans versus
mm-hmm.
some of the other microfinance companies that I guess we are going to get into. You need to look at who is it that they lend out the money to? Is it like
Yeah,
they're lending their money to someone that we mentioned, like you mentioned the cosmetic thing, like say someone was to the braces, them lending out the money to the person to the braces, does the person earn money from doing the braces unless they're like a model or an influencer? Is that actually putting money in their pocket versus you lending money to a taxi man that can then drive the taxi, earn money from that? So generally, based on, I would prefer more business loans, um, because I think that at the end of the day, like the business is going to invest in something that likely could help to earn money. I mean, not to say that the
yeah,
personal loans can't, but you know, I mean, technically, I guess if you were like, I mentioned green energy loan,
mm-hmm.
I guess, okay, if I lend money to you to then buy the solar and then your bill is really high, you cut down on that bill, you can then, that cost savings there is what you can then,
Or even
pay me
medical
off.
procedures. Even if it's not cosmetic, suppose right now you're a business owner, but you're out of work or you're out of commission because of this injury or this
Mm,
this medical illness. So
mm-hmm.
doing this procedure could put money back into your pocket. So I
Yeah,
guess
that's
it
true.
all depends. It all depends. But you did bring up a valuable point, because in them doing their due diligence, meaning if they're vetting people to say, can this person actually pay me back, which is a brilliant thing that they have to do. And their rates are pretty low in terms of, people defaulting on the loans and those kind of things. Their rates are below industry standard. I think the CEO said about 8%, and that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you're getting that much business from a lot, if you're lending out all of this money, if you're unlending all of this money, and the rates of default are that low, you're doing proper due diligence. So I would assume in their due diligence process, and you can actually see it on their website. Let me go to their website and show you. Sorry. Uh Dollar website. So this is their website, and on it, oh, we will talk about Dollar Guyana next, of course. But on their website, it basically just talks about, you can kind of see some of the things. And you also mentioned them being like a bank. They are basically like a bank, but it's just the fact that I think the beautiful thing about Dollar is you can get your money possibly even same day or the very next day. And
Mm-hmm.
these are all that you're required: ID and TRN, proof of address, proof of income, and adequate collateral. So these are some key things that are necessary, of course, in them doing their due
Mm-hmm.
diligence to say, can you actually get this loan? Can we approve you of this loan? And then type of
Mm-hmm.
security required, you go say real estate, motor vehicle, stocks. I love that stocks are a security required. But it
Mm-hmm.
makes sense, because if you can't pay back the loan, right, and it's an unsecured loan, that's a problem for them. But if it is secured and they have collateral like real estate or motor, they can get back their money. So
Mm-hmm.
even have a cool loan calculator and so on. But
Mm-hmm.
The funny part is their interest. I see them interest rate, like the default is, what's it, 7%. But when I was speaking to people, their rates are pretty wide. Like they vary. I've heard up to even close to 50%. I've heard 1% per week. So the interest rate increases by 1% per week. I've heard 30%, 30 to 40 odd percent. I've heard a wide range. And I guess it depends on a lot of these other things, and their approval process and so on. But yeah, those are the interest rates. So
one of the things you mentioned, I think some of the big reasons why someone would choose dollar over like a Scotiabank, a NCB, any of those other commercial banks is the time. So if you need money quick, even if you have the different things, like you could maybe you could get the loan at the bank because you meet those criteria. But if you just don't have the time, and then if, for example, there's a deal you're waiting on, you want to close a deal, but if you can't get the money within a week, they'll go with someone else. You can say, okay, I am willing to pay the higher fee because it ends up being a win for me and I could lose this contract. Versus if dollar can give me the money, yes, they pay me a higher rate than Scotiabank. Well, I have to pay a higher percentage to them than Scotiabank, but it's a time. And that
exactly,
there's value in that. So dollar,
there's so much value in that. And you see, now you can apply for your loan online without ever having to leave the convenience of your home or office. So even just that convenience alone, I mean, in a bank, you have to go in, you have to sign a bunch of documents, you have to wait days, and they've just, changed the game by, making it so much more convenient for the individual. See the one and ready to and drive loan promotion here, right? Win a 2018 Toyota Pro Box and a full tank of gas if you apply between for a loan June 28th to December 31st. So guys, if you want a loan from dollar, you're buying a taxi or so on, or you have a taxi, apply for this loan. Wow, look at me doing free advertising for them. They should really come on the podcast. But I think it's pretty cool. Now, I briefly touched on Guyana a while ago, because I don't know if you guys saw, but when I clicked on when I went on their website, they asked me which country, and of course I chose Jamaica, but they also have dollar Guyana. Actually, I never clicked dollar Guyana. Get finance today. Interesting. But in terms of dollar Guyana, so dollar expanded to Guyana, yes, because a lot of companies see a lot of opportunity there based on the oil and so on. But they're actually winding down Dollar Guyana Incorporated. So this was posted. I can't remember when this was posted, but earlier this year. See, on the 5th of February, the board of directors resolved to initiate the orderly wind down of DGI, which is Dollar Guyana Inc. operations, which will be executed through gradual runoff of its loan portfolio and is expected to be completed and close its operations on or before the 31st of March 2025. So, I mean, the reason they gave here was that, it's a proactive step, prudently manage potential operational risks associated with the ongoing geopolitical crisis. I'm assuming that has to do with, Venezuela wanting that big stake in Guyana, the Essequibo region, and so on. Reclaiming that they're, or is it reclaiming? I don't know if they really had a case in the first place. But they Venezuelan government, they said that portion of Guyana was theirs, and then they hosted a referendum in their own country, and everybody said, yeah, the Essequibo region is really and truly ours. But we haven't really heard much in recent times. Or I haven't heard much in recent times, I should say that. But yeah, that is I guess that's one of the reasons. But when I looked at another Gleaner article, this was published April 5th, 2024. They were talking about Dollar Guyana's contribution, and it actually fell from $28 million to $5 million, whereas the group's nascent subsidiary, Ultra Financier, accounted for 116.5 million, up from 9.6 million at startup. So that is huge. Ultra growing that big, and we're gonna speak about Ultra soon. But Guyana's contribution falling from 28 mil to 5 mil, I guess they see it as, why bother with it if they're not making as much money from it. And then the CEO at the time, Kadeen Meir, said the company was still trying to understand the market when it entered it in 2021. And Kadeen actually exited the company in 2023. I guess we'll speak about that later too. There's so much we need to talk about.
He stopped working there.
He stopped
but he's still a shareholder.
And he stopped being a CEO. But he is definitely still a very large shareholder, both personally and through a company that he now works at, Equity. And we'll speak about that.
But he worked at it before.
Definitely.
He just, yeah.
Yeah, but now he's in a more active role. And yes, so they were talking about Guyana being a new market, and they were still learning and so on. And they didn't want to get too aggressive in a market that they're new to. That's the same sort of temperament that we will have to look when we expand into other Caribbean markets. So that's crucial. They do have a regional expansion vision. They definitely want to be able to expand within the entire Caribbean region as a microcredit institution. So let's see. But Guyana for now, winding down. And let's talk about, they do have 11 branches across the island. I'm just going to put that out there. When they IPO'd, they had about 8. So I think they increased by 3.
I think that opened a Portmore one. Yeah.
I'm not sure if they opened. Is it Discovery Bay one new too? I'm not really sure. But they opened 3. There are 2 in Mobay, 2 in Kingston.
The one in St. Thomas recently too.
Yes, the one in St. Thomas is pretty new. You're very right. And let's talk Ultra. So Ultra is actually a wholly owned subsidiary of DOLLA, right? DOLLA owns for now. We'll talk about that soon. But Ultra Financier, right? They are at IPO. Ultra did not exist. So if you're looking through the prospectus, you may not have seen Ultra, but 4 months after, right, the IPO, Ultra started. And Ultra at that time was an asset-based lending company, right? So still a loans company, but asset-based specifically, meaning they use a lot of the assets as collateral. And the assets at that time were like luxury items and so on. So,
but not just that though, because like you could use luxury items, but you could use stocks.
Yeah,
real estate.
Just use all assets. Yeah, even vehicles, cars. And to be fair, that's what they use now. Less so. So it was asset-based lending, but specifically for high net worth individuals. So the company provided loans secured by valuable assets, as Preston said, real estate, vehicles, other personal assets. This form of lending, though, was catered to clients with significant collateral. So that's crucial, right, to back the loans. So that ensured that, the security of the loans were there through, it was insured through tangible assets. So
if the person couldn't pay the money, you could sell their watch and then cover the value. So if you have the watch worth, say, some Audemars Piguet, Rolex, whatever, it's worth like 10K US, they'd be willing to lend you 1,000 US, 2,000 US, whatever percentage, or I don't know what they work out to, because they know that, okay, even if the watch is, say, valued at 10,000, even worst case scenario, we could probably even sell it at maybe 9,000, 8,000 quickly if we needed to, and we could cover your loan of 1,000 if you couldn't pay us, and then possibly give you back some of that money then.
Yeah. I think it's such a unique business model, and at the time, so the minimum the loans range from $500,000 Jamaican to a ceiling of 150 million Jamaican. And at that time, that's such a defined credit range, just attracting a specific clientele that fit these loan parameters. But now, Ultra's transitioned into a private credit lender. So it no longer focuses exclusively on just asset-based lending. They're moving towards more private lending, a broader array of loan products. They offer loans now with absolutely no ceiling. So before, the ceiling was 150 million. They did away with that. And there's now an increase in the minimum amount that you need, and it's 5 million Jamaican dollars. So if you wanted to borrow money, the minimum you could borrow is 5 million Jamaican if you want to use it. So you can tell the clientele is different, right? They're not really necessarily looking for just taxi drivers. They're now looking for clients that are just very high net worth. And they have diverse financial needs. Now, if you were a taxi man, or let's say you were a business owner that owed multiple taxes, of course, and so on. But not just say taxi man not have no money. We can't say that. Right? You ever see them counting up money sometimes, bro? Jeez. Just that. Yeah. But private credit, very interesting. It's a very interesting shift because I think there's an article out there, a Guyana article speaking about this. And I guess I'll find it soon. But private credit. Sorry, it's diverse. When I think of private credit, I'm thinking of even stuff like Cygnus. They offer, of course, direct lending, those kind of loans, but even mezzanine financing, which has a blend of like debt and equity and so on. You have different kind of they still do the asset backed lending. I think that's crucial. I think that is their business model. So still has to be backed by assets for sure, but it's a bit more flexible in terms of the type of loans and so on. And
one of the things though is that I don't think it's that they weren't doing private credit before. I think what was said was that essentially people thought they were like a pawn shop, but they were trying to say, hey, we're not just a pawn shop. Yeah, we're not a pawn shop. Like we do offer some of those, I guess, similar products, but that's not the only thing we offer. So it's more them saying, okay, we don't want people to just think we only do, we only go against watches and we'll borrow. You went on. Yeah, they were actually someone that they kind of copied them.
For so sure,
because a US company.
It's a US company, and same stuff by a luxury asset capital. So it's just luxury assets, get a loan, and so on. And yeah, I think you were the one that spoke to the CEO of Ultra, who is David Enriquez. Is that his name? Yeah. I think you spoke to him, and you guys were talking about stuff like this.
They don't want the website to look too much like. They don't want Ultra's website to look too much like Borrow. Yeah.
Let me see Ultra's website. Okay, yeah, it definitely does look a bit different. Oh, actually kind of like this design. Okay, private credit. And so I guess it's rebranding because you see private credit everywhere. Flexible private credit solutions.
One of the interesting stuff is that if you look at the CEO, David, I think he used to work at Porsche. So it kind of makes sense that, okay, he kind of has those kind of connections to say, the people who are buying Porsches, they may be, some of these clients, and he may have their contacts, their phone numbers, their emails. So it really was I definitely think he's someone who is good for the job. And I even see sometimes like on their social media, like their Instagram and stuff, guess which school they're like advertising at in Jamaica.
Hillel?
No, higher.
Yeah, SK?
Yeah. Maybe they did Hillel too, but I was like, okay, that's probably the most expensive school. Have you ever looked at like how much the school fee is?
No, bro. We're not freeing kids right now.
Yeah,
but how much is the school fee?
Bro,
Since
it was
clearly
some
you're looking at kids.
insane amount of money, man. Like, I don't know. I looked at it like a few years ago. Someone showed me, and I was like, damn.
Wow. Wow,
Damn.
wow, wow.
But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean there are some differences. So of course, contrasting like Dollar and Ultra, I mean the ownership, of course, Dollar owning 100% of Ultra.
For
There
now.
is that for now. We keep saying
We
that,
don't
but
know.
you're teasing the people them. Stop teasing the people them. Of course, there's that loan book segmentation. So in terms of Dollar's loan book being microfinance targeting smaller loans, typically that under that $5 million mark with secured and unsecured loan mix. Ultra is completely different. It's more than $5 million. That's where the starting range is for the loans, and of course more high net worth clients, and all of them are asset backed and so on. So there's a clear segmentation. There's that clear divide in the type of clients and the type of loans that they do. So I kind of like that. Like they have such a broad base of people that they can unlend the money to. So, and I think it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool still. There's so much more that I think Ultra can do. And some of we spoke about it before, that they started, where's that article? The article stated they started at, it was pennies. They were a startup, see? Dollar moved from 9.6 million at startup to 116 million. And you're going to see like a lot of different, we have a lot to speak about for Ultra when we get to, talking more and more about their plans and so on. So when we get to their plans, we'll talk more about that. But going back to the notion, so that's Ultra. And a lot of that is really what Dollar does for money in terms of the ecosystem. So there are a lot of players within the ecosystem of microcredit, microfinance. You have LASF, which is Lasco Financial Group. You have Access Financial Group, and these are some of the listed ones. You have ISP, you have Cygnus. Cygnus has a lot more alternative financing solutions. You have Caroline, you even have Michaela Financial, which is an interesting link which we'll touch on. But there are quite a few players within this ecosystem. Now, we spoke about Dollar on the podcast before. Do you remember which episode it was? I don't remember. I feel like it was a stocks
was that
to
the
watch.
IPO?
Was it the IPO?
As in we did an IPO episode, and we had done I think a stocks. It was a stock to watch last year.
We did a stocks to watch talking about. I don't remember which one we were talking about, the Microcredit Act, and how if you weren't licensed. So the Microcredit Act, I'm trying to remember the year it came into play. I think it was it 2022 or 2020 or early 2023. But basically, if you didn't have your microcredit license, you couldn't operate as a microcredit institution in Jamaica. So there's this whole big buzz about legally. So there's this whole big buzz about what might happen to all of these other institutions that do operate as microfinance institutions, but they're not licensed. So I remember us speculating Dollar acquiring a lot of these tinier players and so on.
It wasn't just speculating though. They said it, like they literally laid it out in their, I think in their prospectus, they were saying, hey,
in the use of proceeds,
consolidation, we expect to buy some of these. It makes sense. Because if you're a business and maybe the process, how sometimes with these stuff like the documentation needed, the process of actually applying to the Bank of Jamaica to get the license and whatever. If say you don't want to go through that hassle, or you're not willing to, and then Dollar is like, hey, you lend out your loan book. We like the quality of the loan book. It's a lot of secured loans. It's worth $100 million. Let's buy it at 70 million or something. Could I probably buy it at a discount or something? Because they're like, yo, if you do, and it makes sense too, because it's like,
it does.
You can, when someone's distressed, and they're kind of panicking and stuff, you can then get it at like a discount versus buying it at a premium when things are going well. So it's like buying something at under the market price. The stock is trading at $10, you buy it at $8 or $5 or something below that market price. So
the key is turning it around though, because you
well,
can
not
buy
necessarily
this.
turn it around. Remember, the business could have actually been doing well, but maybe the owner, they kind of. So it could be
I'm
a
just
time where
speaking about distressed assets specifically, but I
well, I
agree.
was saying distress from the point of like the loan book is good. It's just maybe the company people don't want to go through that hassle, or they're worried about going through that process.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, we can't legally operate. This can mess us up. Even though the loan book is good, we just maybe need more time or whatever. Yeah. Kind of ended. Yeah.
I mean, well, okay, fair. Speaking of loan books, though, would you want to share your screen? Because I remember you doing some analysis or some comparison of a lot of these companies. Especially the listed ones. Not so much Cygnus because they're a bit different. They're not microcredit, but these companies specifically, and comparing them to Dollar. Don't know if you wanted to touch on it. All right, let me just stop sharing for a bit.
So,
and audio listeners, we do share our screens on YouTube. So if you want to look at our lovely faces, you can just hop on the YouTube sometimes. But if you're a pure, like I like pure podcasts, like just as a purist, where it's just strictly audio. I do love those kind of podcasts. I haven't had the time to listen to them as much nowadays, but if you're one of those, big up you. And if you guys want to hear us earlier, we released the audio. Do we still release the audio earlier?
I haven't been lately, you know.
Yeah, we should give the audio listeners some perks still, but all right, no problem.
Yes, I don't know if this was all the ones you had touched on. So I have sharing on my screen. I'm comparing DOLLA ISP, which is another microfinance company listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Access Financial, I think they were the first company to list on the junior market. And Lasco Finance. So I was saying that when you look at the loan book,
the size of the loan book,
I think is up to. This is up to. I was picking the audited numbers for this, so technically, Dollars loan book has grown since then, but up to December 2023, the end of December 2023, Dollars loan book was actually valued at 2.5 billion Jamaican. ISP was at $1 billion. Access was at 5.7 billion, and LASF was at like 1.8 billion. So I remember when Dollar just listed, I think they were like under $1 billion. And if you look at where they're coming from, so I think they were, I don't know where ISP was at the time, but you're now, I think LASF may have been bigger than Dollar in terms of the loan book at the time, but Dollar has surpassed them. And I mean, they haven't surpassed Access yet. But one of the things I would look at was that it's not just, okay, your loan book is bigger, or you have so much more loans, but there's also the quality of the loan book.
Yeah.
Because how do you feel like, okay, Access's loan book is almost 6 billion, right? And for that 6 billion, you generate profit of 300 million. That means when you calculate the profit as a percentage of your loan book, Access was only making 6%. When you look at Dollar's loan book, Dollar is making 17% because on that 2.5 billion loan book, they're making 420 million, or that's 17%. So it's not just the size of the loan book, there's also like the quality, like how, and I would like, would you prefer you have a bigger loan book, less profit, or I'd prefer a higher profit? As long as it's consistent. So I find that pretty interesting.
What's also interesting, even their last. So I mean, your numbers are, of course, from December 2023, audited, but the quarter that ended June, and their report is due, right? They have a report, and they like to report early. So I feel like even next week the report is gonna drop, or this week. But the quarter ending June 30th, 2024, their profit was 163 mil, or 163 mil. And yeah, if you look at that, total comprehensive income, not really net profit, but total comprehensive. But you can use net profit if you want, which is 144 mil. Call it 150 mil. If you multiply
You're
that
saying
by,
they're passing out, they're likely to surpass last year.
they're on the track to definitely surpass last year. Definitely. I mean, look at the EPS. Look at that EPS increase. That's up 50% quarter over quarter. That's the earnings per stock. So basically,
well, this is rounding though. They're kind of rounded. It's kind of because how they rounded it though.
How they rounded it?
Yeah. Because the
What do you mean?
profit is actually up 36%, but it's because of how you rounded it up.
Oh,
if you showed
okay,
more
yeah.
decimal places, it wouldn't be that big a deal.
True.
Like it's still a good. I'm not saying it's not good. Profits are up 36%. I'm just saying 36 versus 50.
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
Yeah.
That is true. That's a big discrepancy. You are very right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, geez, Dollar, what a company, right? So I guess when you compare them, especially just the loan books on a whole, you know, it paints a completely different picture. You can see how profitable Dollar is as a company. So
not just
yeah,
loan books too, because you mentioned something before that Dollar, I think, is between them and I think Mayberry Jamaican equities, they release reports the fastest. Like I
yeah,
think they even broke a record once in terms of how fast they release financials versus think of that this time. Look how many companies on the exchange have been releasing, delaying reports. You don't know what's going on with a company for months versus
some are
Dollar
suspended.
as soon as it's out, or almost as soon as the quarter ends, the report drops. So it's like you can actually know what is going on in the business, which I
Yeah.
think is also good in this situation. Like, because some people say, oh, like everyone thinks that, it's a loans company, they're risky, like they're lending out to like some wild man and whatever. But if you actually look at it, wait, the loan book is highly secured. They actually are audited. Like they drop their audited numbers. Like you can see the audits. You can see the financials, and I think that's,
Yeah.
and then also like their investor relations are one of the best, because every quarter they do an earnings call.
Yeah. I mean, they could do
They have
better.
in
They could
terms of
come on
what.
Limitless podcast. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
You're
they
right.
could,
You're right.
but like they have earnings calls every quarter. Not a lot of companies do that.
True.
They also have investor briefings. They
Mm-hmm.
go on Mayberry. I mean, makes sense. Mayberry is a large shareholder. We'll talk about that. But they go on the investor briefing. So it's like you actually know about what's going on in the company. ISP, like when I look at an ISP report, it's
Oh
like,
yeah.
I don't really, yeah, like sometimes I remember sometimes when you
It's
look at
hard
some
to
of these
look at.
companies, and I think it's been getting better. But some of these companies, when they drop a report, it's like you can't even copy from the report. It's like they just scanned it. Um, it's not like their investor relations, I'd say, are nowhere as good as Dollar. And also if you even just look at the liquidity of the stock, like how much units actually trade, like Dollar is quite a liquid stock. And it's interesting because the market essentially shows that, because Dollar, even though its loan book isn't the largest, its market cap is much higher.
Yeah.
And it makes
Much,
kind of
much
sense,
higher.
because like, I'd rather pay more for a company that is growing its loan book aggressively, has a highly secure loan book, and has a high profit margin in relation to its loan book, versus a company that isn't really growing its loan book. And so yeah.
Funny that you mentioned that, because even I think I saw a Galena article speaking about ISP being a bit more, is it aggressive with their loan book, or they're trying to do some acquisitions or so on. I remember reading that some time ago.
I think ISP has been
Yeah,
speaking
that
about
one.
the acquisition for a long time though.
True. The proof is truly in the pudding.
There's
I
an
mean,
Observer article. ISP Finance engages investment banker to accelerate acquisition plans. This came out September 27th.
You already read it.
Yeah, they say ISP remains committed to exploring opportunities for growth, whether through acquisitions or mergers. To this end, we have engaged an investment banker to structure potential opportunities. Do you know who is there? Do they have a broker affiliated with them?
I'm not sure. But I mean, that article doesn't tell us anything. They don't really tell us as much. I mean, all you can do is truly speculate, which is all we do really, and all you can do. However, there are certain telltale signs. So you mentioned the ISP is an illiquid stock, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if ISP does a stock split, that in and of itself is ringing a bunch of alarm bells. Whether they are ready to like acquire someone or are ready to be acquired. I feel like there are certain things, because there was a time we thought that, Dollar was going to buy them. Don't know if you remember that. Just like the same time we thought that Dollar was going to buy Access. Don't know if the people remember that. There was this whole debacle with Access and the CEO going through a divorce, right, in his marriage. Something with his wife. I'm not sure what exactly happened. His wife filed for a divorce, and the CEO owns quite a bit of the company. Right, I've tried to remember his name. James. I can't remember his first name.
Marcos.
Yes. And so there's this whole saga. I was telling mommy about all of this, and she's just like, is all of this what's going on in the business world? I'm like, yes, mommy, it's literally just vibes.
Why she's surprised?
I don't know, because there's so much that goes on with a lot of these companies. But yes, wow, see there. I don't remember the entire story. Do you remember the entire story? Because there was even an Our Today article that came out that said that there was something sent to Marcus James from, I don't know if it was from Dollar, if it was it like a takeover? I don't remember what it was. I guess you're looking for it. But do you remember when that happened?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, see it there? It was brought to our today's attention that DOLLA Financial is interested in acquiring full control of Access Financial Services, and that an NDA should be entered into that effect. There's so much noise going around that.
He said Kadeen Mears, well, if this article is true, they're saying Kadeen Mears, CEO of DOLLA Financial at the time, believes the deal will be of mutual benefit to both DOLLA and Access shareholders. I mean, if you look at it though,
that's funny because that's when Dolla's loan book was barely over 1 billion.
Because I mean, Access is an interesting company because I think they said they were the first one to list on the junior market. And if you look at just how the stock has performed over the last 4 years, like this stock was as high as $50. In March 2020, it was $22. Today that we're recording, it's $18. So like over the last 4 years, it hasn't really moved. It's not like they pay dividends, but they're not paying any high dividend. I see like a 1% dividend. In terms of stock price, it hasn't really done much. I mean, profit wise, also their profits have really moved much. I mean, they had bigger profits. I don't know if you're seeing this. It's kind of hard to hold on. Oh yeah, it doesn't show up. But yeah, like profit. Oh yes. So profit wise, their best year was 2018. They made $716 million.
Wow.
The year before they made 710 million. And look at where 2024 they made 340 million. 2023 they made 300 million. Like their profits have, even though their loan book, like if think about it, that was 20. So I said 2018, that was their best year yet. What was their loan book size then? Let's see.
2018, that's a good question. I wonder if it. I wonder what would have happened to make the stock not as profitable. Different management. I remember
Mm.
Mayberry exited. I'm wondering if Mayberry exited. Mayberry
Proven
owned.
sold a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at this. March 2018, their loan book was about 3 billion. I know dollar is approaching that now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you just look at the level of profitability that these guys did, 2018, 716 million. That's a pretty high profit margin, but look at what have they really done since? Like for their the shareholders in Access. Access is also a pretty illiquid stock.
Yeah, they're very illiquid.
So it's like if you really want, think about it. If you're a shareholder in Access all of this time, like say QWI, you want to sell your shares. If you look into the queue right now, the total
QWI is
buy queue.
facing a
Look
terrible
at
loss,
this.
though.
The total buy queue. You sometimes have to sell at a loss if you see some better. The total buy queue. So if I wanted to sell, I could clear the queue and I'd halt the stock and it would be about 50,000 Jamaican versus something like dollar. If I wanted to sell some money to cover some sort of expense in my life, fix something with a car, go on a trip that I've been planning. Look how long dollars buy queue is right now. There's about the whole queue is like 6.8
million.
was it 6.8 million Jamaican. So it's like things like that. I'm just like, hey, I think we even, well, I don't know if we can touch on it. Like, you meant how I see Insider or John Jackson, like he really likes Access.
He
Like
has to.
it has been, I think he was calling it like some, does he?
Hey,
Look at this.
QWI owns too much for him to not like it. Otherwise, if he
Look at
didn't
this.
like it, they would sell that.
Look at this. He's calling Access a $80 stock. $80. It's going to go from $20 to $80 or 300%.
Wow.
He actually thinks DOLLA Financial is less possible gain. He says DOLLA Financial at the time, this was what he was saying when dollar was $2.50, he thought it could be a $6 stock or go up 140%. Dollar is at what, $3 plus now. Access is below the 19 or the $20 that he had said at that time.
Wow.
I mean, it's investment, but yeah, I mean, Access has been on this list for a long time.
Yeah, he kind of has to do that, but I understand. Okay, well, let's move on from the ecosystem just a bit because I realize we're talking a lot and Dollar is just a behemoth of a company. We still have some more things to get into. So let me share my screen again. And so where were we now? So let's just jump out of ecosystem for a bit. There's so much more we could talk about these other companies. But let's go into plans a bit. Yeah, let's go into plans a bit. So the top plan, as you guys can see, Ultra spinoff, right? So they've been teasing this. Gleaner articles have come out and so on. So let me just click this one. This is an Observer article that speaks about, and this came out August 11, 2024. DOLLA Financial considers separating Ultra Financial, right? So this whole article speaks about Dollar stripping itself of subsidiary Ultra Financier in a move aimed at preparing the luxury loan business to raise its own capital. So Dollar IPO'd at 2022. Ultra came to the scene around that time, right after the IPO, about 4 months after. And then look, their loan book today is $1 billion. They grew to about $1 billion in a very short time. Look at that. So, and then the CEO, David
They got it
Enriquez.
faster. They did it faster than Dollar.
They did it faster. It took Dollar a couple of years, yes, a few years with First Rock. But look, the CEO, David Henriquez, wants to double that number and expects to accomplish that goal through debt or equity raise. Critical. So, they want an IPO and so on. And there's so many different ways. We can probably talk about that soon as to how they can do that, right? They don't have a target date yet.
When was that? When was that the article came out, you said?
This was August 11th, 2024. And, you were saying the same thing. Sometimes people, the CEO states, sometimes people mistake us for a pawn shop because of the marketing around luxury items. So we want to correct that and establish ourselves as a premier private credit company. So, and see they align themselves with competitors like Cygnus and Caroland. So Ultra is going for Cygnus and Caroland's food. And, part of the rebranding exercise, the company will also raise the minimum loan disbursement. So the same stuff we spoke about and so on. And they said they'll leave loans smaller than $5 million to DOLLA Financial because DOLLA operates under the Microcredit Act and Ultra is not governed by that act. Now, there was something crucial I wanted to say. Yeah, he wanted to double the value of his loan book by the close of 2024. Do you realize that that's is it 3 months left of the year? No, it's 2 months, November and December. This man plans to double the loan book by the end of this year to change it to 2 billion. Now, I was doing some this is some at basically just trying to see how much money DOLLA has raised before, and I'm gonna go into that next. But short-term plans, they want to hit loan, $2 billion on their loan book and so on, and they hinted at that because they want to prepare both DOLLA and Ultra for the busy Christmas season. So they really and truly are going for that $2 billion before Christmas, right? So
wait, why he said that? Why he said before Christmas?
That's what he said. The CEO of the company hinted at it. So he said at a $2 billion raise, part of which may be used to prepare both DOLLA and Ultra for the busy Christmas season. And it makes sense. A lot of people would take out a lot of loans during Christmas
in the
time.
same article. Let me see. It's weird sometimes the wording of the article because there was a mention of 6 months. Was there?
Oh, yes. Yeah, there was a mention of 6 months.
I'm trying to see where it was.
He said short term.
Yeah, because the thing is, the article is August.
If we are talking about 6 months, yeah.
So that'd be September, October, November, December, January, February.
Mm-hmm.
So that'd be February next year. So it's weird that he says that, but then, the article says that.
Read the article. So short-term plans, if we're talking about 6 months, so I guess it's not the entire 6 months, it's just within 6 months, we're aiming to hit a loan book of about 2 billion. And then moving into next year, once capital is available to us, we want to see if we can double that. So he's saying by 2024, we should get to $2 billion loan book for Ultra. Then by end of 2025, he's trying to get to $4 billion loan book for Ultra. Now, that's very aggressive growth. I don't know about you, but that's very, very aggressive growth. All right. So, because right now, DOLLA's loan book is not $4 billion. So, to be able to do that would be pretty impressive. And one way in which I think they're doing that. Oh, let me see this tweet that you sent me. So this is on Twitter, but this is a tweet, right, of Khalid Mir saying $, Ultra, Ultra, right? And then Gio, big up Dr. Cygnus himself, said any announcement soon. And we're gonna go into this article next.
Dr. Dollar now?
Dr. Dollar, yeah, we already changed his name to Dr. Dollar for real. And then he said, I do read all DOLLA articles as soon as they're released. I was hoping to draw more info from you, but I understand. And then Gio says again, hopefully the spin-off will be before year end. And
I never got a response and him say, wait.
He said, for sure. Khadid literally says, for sure, for the spin-off. So, hey, I mean, I never really trust the timelines of people because, things always happen. It takes time to get like FSC approval.
Things always get delayed.
Yeah, things always get delayed. But if his intention is to spin off DOLLA before the end of the year, geez, the market. People keep saying the market's dead, but the market's been back. Like it's literally been back. And there's so many ways they can spin off. Like, well, Some would say the market's left.
I think it's funny. Like when people say, "Oh, the market is back," I think it's more you're gonna see the IPOs and
it's really
those kind
just
of stuff.
a
It's
lot more
more
activity.
offers.
Yeah, way more offers.
IPOs,
Way more
secondary
offers.
offerings.
But I mean, how do you think Dollar could spin off Ultra? Because there's so many ways in which Dollar can spin off Ultra in my head. Sorry. I mean, you can go back to another spin-off that I know of, which was Lumber from Blue Power.
I wish I had started investing then, man. That was wow. You should probably you can share your screen maybe to show the stock price movements for that.
Sure.
I looked it up to learn about it, and I was like, wow.
Definitely, but that was, I mean, that's what they called. I mean, I remember seeing a word called like demerger. Basically just splitting the two businesses. But let's look at
it's funny with Meds we had for those that you don't know, we had the current chairman, I think he's chairman of Blue Power and Lumber, Jeffrey Hall, on recently. I'll try to link that episode.
Yeah. This is around the time.
Yeah, so it started the year, this was 2019, started the year at $5. And if you look at what happened there,
it went parabolic.
Stock went to almost $15. But past, it traded as high as like $16 within just like about 6 months or so.
Yeah.
On that news.
And it was because of the benefit of Blue Power shareholders that they would get shares in Lumber at the time. So
based on your ownership in Blue Power.
Yeah. So that's one way they could spin it. I think that. So, I think that's. I mean, ideally, everyone wants to see that, and I think based on who is in the top 10 of Dollar, I think those shareholders would also want to see that as well. Just gonna probably go into top 10 real quick. Because we've just kept glossing over it and talking and touching on it, so I might as well. So First Rock has 20% ownership via First Rock Private Equity. They also have First Rock PE SPVs here, some ownership down here.
Wait, wasn't there actually is that updated? Because I think there was I think there's been a big trade. No, as in I think there's been a big trade since that it wouldn't reflect.
Oh, most definitely.
July. Let me see.
I'm gonna show you the big trade now. I was looking at it actually. This was July 19, 2024, and I was actually looking at the queue. So if you go back a bit, let me just click this and go draw it back a bit. This was around $2.60. I was looking at the whole queue at this point, right? And you can see that this is the buy queue. So these are all buy orders, right? And you're seeing quite a bit of buy orders here. But as time progresses, you realize that, let's say you keep going. Oh, like this is 12 p.m. You just keep going. And all of a sudden, the queue was cleared. And you see $100 million traded right here at $2.37.
Buy side or sell side? No, that's a bad joke. So it's 100 million.
100 million.
So I mean, there's not that many people who have that amount of shares.
And it's more than 100 because I mean, some sold them, but it's around 100 million shares that were actually traded right here. And then if you look at top 10, who are the people that would have that? So it's anyone above this. So you're looking at, well, it would have been two different trades if it was the SPV 1 and 2. So you're looking at wide base and above.
And it can't be MJE.
Mayberry's been buying, right? They bought 9 million shares here. And if you actually look at MJE, their report, they actually bought more shares during this quarter. from what I
But I'm saying it
remember.
wasn't them. That trade wasn't them. I don't think it equated to 100 million shares at $2 plus. That's 200 million. I don't think they bought that much dollar. So that means that trade wasn't them.
Oh yeah, facts. Oh yeah, true.
That means it's either Supreme Ventures increasing their stake.
Hold on. I just wanted to check
Well,
MJE because you can see that they've been buying more. You can tell right here. Top 5 additions dollar. They spent 67 mil Jamaican buying more in this quarter. Oh, the disposals. Wow. And you can see CPJ, how much they sold CPJ. This was 2.3
so
billion.
wait, who do you think?
Yeah.
Who do you think sold actually?
First Rock.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure First Rock. Well, I am personally. I'm pretty sure First Rock sold because they have been selling. Like if you go back, you'll see. I'm just gonna go back a bit. I mean, they had way more at IPO. Pre-IPO, they had what 75% ownership. Then post-IPO, they dropped to what? Was it 60? And equity owned 20. I can't remember exactly. And then the other 20 is to the general public and so on. And then after all of that, they've been selling down. So this is 36%. And you can see them over time. They've been selling down to they dropped to 20%. And they've just been selling, right? They've been cashing out. I mean, they've made a great profit. I don't know how First Rock find such a beautiful company, but they've made a great profit off of dollar over the years. And now they don't have as much, so they're probably just fully exiting.
Well, not fully, because based on this,
it's 100. So that's at $2.30. So that's maybe half or close to half of how much they have here. If it is them that's selling.
Well, isn't it 100 million shares?
It's 100 million shares. Oh, yes, it is 100 million shares. Sorry, I'm looking
20%.
I'm thinking shares is about, yeah. So 20%
Just a
of
piece,
this.
if it's them. The thing is, Supreme Ventures Limited recently bought the stake. They bought their stake last year. And I think they bought it at around that price, so I wouldn't really see them buying in and then just quickly selling like that. MJE will rule them out because MJE reported and they showed that, hey, even though we bought dollar, we never bought that much.
Exactly.
So yeah, my guess would probably be First Rock Private Equity. So I guess we'll see
who do you
when
think
that report comes out. Oh, that's the interest. So
I would actually love Kadeen on the podcast. We've always actually wanted Kadeen on the podcast. I'm pretty sure Kadeen has read out Limitless podcast name a lot when you comment on the Mayberry Investor forums, on a lot of his interviews and so on. So I'm pretty sure he is aware of us, and if he wants to come and talk about what happened and so on, we're here to facilitate you, Kadeen. But SVL having this 15% stake is big, and I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure if I were Dequity could possibly increase their stake based on everything that's going on and the possible spin-off of Ultra just growing so aggressively, the company growing so aggressively. Pretty sure you'd want a bigger footprint within this company. Now, getting access to capital is hard, right? But if it's possible, I see Dequity possibly buying this stake too. I really do think it is Mayberry, but part of me wants to believe that.
But if it's Mayberry, why wouldn't you have seen it in the report then?
True, because that would have been in
wide base
Q3.
bought.
And
then the thing is, if it was SVL, SVL would have made a disclosure. Well, I think they would have made a disclosure because they made a disclosure when they bought last time.
True.
So I would say it's not Supreme, it's not MJE. So it's either wide base or as you said, equity.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I guess time will tell. We will see. We'll definitely see. But yeah,
I think we're talking about the spin-off. You're finishing the spin-off?
There's so much more we can talk about the spin-off, but there's so much more I want to also get into. I don't know if you had any other comments on the spin-off.
I mean, I thought we were gonna talk like what exactly could happen. So they could give a
Oh, the
shareholder
process itself.
benefit. Well,
Yeah.
first they were saying they could give a shareholder benefit. So I don't think it would be like a Blue Power Lumber situation where it was almost like 1 for 1. So if you own 20% of Blue Power, you now own 20% of Lumber.
Mm-hmm.
But they could also give a shareholder maybe reserve pool, or maybe they could even give like a preferential pricing. So they say, oh, if you're a dollar
Yeah.
shareholder, if it's a preferential price, say we IPO at, well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if they're the preferential price. My guess it would be more a reserve pool. So, so say, and just means another thing we should have mentioned is that, um, one of the reasons why Ultra could be, well, one of the reasons why it would be nice for them to list, so they list on a junior market. Bam, you first get the tax break, and if you think
Mm-hmm.
about it too, dollar
And you get
has
capital.
dollar has 10 years of the tax break. So the first 5, no corporate income tax. The next 5, 50% of that. Dollar has already used up some of that. So now Ultra, which is essentially, you meant that Ultra has a higher profit margin than dollar. Even though Ultra's
Definitely.
loan book is small, I think they've said like it's like 45% or so of dollar's profits, which is
Mm-hmm.
crazy. You're looking at, I guess, how much money they could
I
raise.
think.
But then remember, the junior market limit is to be raised. I don't know if it will
Mm-hmm.
come in before. I think when we spoke to big up Mr. Stephen Whittingham, the chairman of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. If you haven't listened to that episode, you should check it out. We spoke to him, and he was saying that they're hoping that I think it's the government or the Ministry of Finance that has to do it, and I'm hoping that Nigel, who I guess would stop officially his job end of October, I'm hoping that's something that is sorted out before he goes out of office, because then I'm worried that when he goes out of office, it's gonna then take longer for it to go into play.
Yeah.
Um,
It would
but
look
yeah,
really
like
bad if after a year of him announcing that the junior market limit,
it
is
doesn't go
increased
in.
and nothing happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it'd be nice because if the junior market limit gets raised from the 500 million to the 750 million, that's an extra 250 million that Ultra then
Mm-hmm.
can on lend to someone.
Exactly.
Um, but yeah, so they could give a shareholder benefit, either preferential price in reserve pool. I would think it'd probably be a reserve pool. They could even give you a percentage of shares. So say for every $10 shares you get 1 share in Ultra.
I feel they could do something like that.
So
But
I
based
think,
on the size of Ultra and Dollar, I'm
mhm.
not sure how that would work out. Um, like the 10-1, but you're right. It could be some
Yeah,
some
I wasn't
ratio.
saying 10 to 1. I was
Yeah,
just giving an example. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I figured.
So I think it will be interesting. Wait, let me share my screen?
Sure.
One of the things I was meant to look out for, there might be a notice soon.
Oh yeah, you need a notice to the JSE.
So hold on. So if you
And
look
then you
at it,
need
right?
board approval.
Dollar. So you'd first have to. What I think what would happen if this were to happen? You notice that dollar pays, I think, like 3 times a year they pay dividends now. So I'm expecting they'd likely pay. If you look over here, like they usually last year, 2023, they paid a dividend in quarter 4. So
Mm-hmm.
they may pay another dividend this year. And if you look at it, too, their dividends have increased significantly since
Truly.
last year. Like their quarter 1 dividend this year doubled last year's dividend. Um, so they've been increasing their dividends. So they may pay a quarter 4 dividend. If you look at the last year when they paid the quarter 4 dividend, how the process of a dividend works, there's a notice that comes out to the Jamaica Stock Exchange saying, hey, the board will be meeting on this date in the future, a week or 2 weeks or whatever in the future, to determine if they want to consider a dividend. And then the meeting happens. And then after the meeting, the Jamaica Stock Exchange puts out another notice that says, hey, they have decided to pay a dividend or they have not decided to pay a dividend. So last year, it was October 2023 was when the notice to consider a dividend came out.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had the dividend meeting on October 30th or 30th. And then that's when the notice said, hey, we've declared this dividend. And
Yeah.
if you look at where we are now on the calendar, Today is, we're recording on, well, why is it saying national? Well, that's weird. It's saying today is Monday. Interesting. I don't know why the date is off. But today is Sunday. So if they were to do the same time period, and let me look back, even October 20, could they really say 2020? Did they pay one 2022? You could see where, oh no, but see, it was later in 2022. So they did pay a dividend in quarter four in 2022 when they had just listed, but that was in November. But you notice they paid a dividend earlier in 2022. So what could happen is that this week, or even maybe over the next month, I'd say, they may put out a notice, hey, we're going to consider a dividend. And then when the board meets, they can say, hey, because essentially how you as a shareholder have a right, to vote on whether or not you want the business to be spun off, because essentially what you're saying is, hey, a part of this business, I'm willing to sell a part of this business to the public, or invite some new shareholders by creating some new shares in this subsidiary. So if Dollar wanted to list it on the junior market, which they seem that they're considering it, they would have to sell at least 20% of the business. Right? That's the rule. Say you have to sell at least 20% of the business. So they'd have to issue some new shares and say, hey, well, they don't necessarily have to issue shares, but yeah, so they could issue new shares if Dollar wants to actually raise money from selling the Ultra stake. You have to sell that 20%.
Wait, if Dollar wants to raise money, yes.
Yeah, you could do, I guess, what, offer,
or Dollar could sell the shares and still
yeah,
raise
that's what I'm
money.
saying. But it wouldn't be a, hold on, what I feel like we're saying. So they could
You
sell the
said
stake because,
issue new
yeah, because
shares,
it wouldn't be an
but if
IPO.
you
There's a
no, if you issue if Ultra is issuing new shares,
uh-huh.
the money goes to Ultra, not to Dollar.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think we're
Oh,
saying the
okay,
same thing then. We're saying the same thing. Yeah.
okay.
So I hope I didn't lose anyone. So I think what they would do is IPO. So Dollar Ultra would say, hey, we want to create some new shares, and then we want to sell those shares to the public, the investing public. You as a Dollar shareholder, because Dollar right now owns all of Ultra 100%, it's a wholly owned subsidiary. You as a shareholder have a right to say yes or no to that. So
Yeah,
what would have to happen?
you can't just sell
Kind
my
of sell
things
my
without my
business, like it's
approval.
our business, like I
Yeah,
have to say yes.
exactly.
So what would have to happen? You would have to have a shareholder meeting. So like what would happen? And if you look at even the previous notices, like with the previous spin-offs, that's what I was saying. It's good to look back in the past when Blue Power um so Blue Power, for those that didn't know, Blue Power in 2019, just before I started, but I just look back, they actually owned a similar situation, just like how Dollar owns all of Ultra. Blue Power owned all of Lumber, but it said, hey, we want Lumber to trade as a separate company, separate management that can focus on lumber stuff, and we will just focus on our soaps and other stuff. So let's have a separate company, spin off the business. So they had a board meeting. They said, and the board meeting that um the initial notice that Blue Power put out to say, oh, we're going to have a board meeting. It wasn't anything special. They just said, we're going to consider a dividend. It wasn't anything like, oh, it's going to be a special dividend. So everyone would have just been like, oh, it's just a dividend. I'll just go pay out the usual whatever. But then when they had the meeting, that's when they said, okay, we're going to pay out some cash, but we're going to have an AGM or a shareholder meeting. And they tell you the date for the shareholder meeting, and then they tell you what they're going to vote on. And they say that, hey,
that was 2 days later, by the way, after the payment. You meant that, like, it will be paid on the 12th, but then we're going to meet the 14th. The man, them just get the ball rolling immediately.
And they say in that notice that they said that the issue/transfer of the company's shares in a newly created subsidiary of the company, Lumber Depot, to the company's shareholders on record as at August 1st, 2019. So they also said that with the intent that after such actions, shares in the new Lumber Depot shall be held by the shareholders of the company pro rata to their existing holdings in the company, which is essentially saying if you own 10% of Blue Power, you now own 10% of Lumber. So once again, I don't think Dollar will do that with Ultra, but essentially what we could look out for, if Dollar decides to do this, they would have to have, so they're going to put out the board. We're going to say, hey, we're going to have a board meeting. They're not going to, I don't think they'll tell you anything special in the initial board meeting notice. Then they'll tell you, oh, we had a board meeting, we're going to pay a dividend, and we're also going to consider spinning off the business. So we're going to have a shareholder meeting.
Why them don't just pay it in shares?
Yeah, or that. I mean, I think
it's way less
still want cash, though. I think they still want the cash.
Definitely.
I think they want both.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
but
then
a dividend in
to have
specie could happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, haven't you seen that where it's a mixture of... No, never mind. I haven't seen it. Never mind. I was thinking of the separate dividend where they paid cash and shares, but in that instance, if Dollar was to do that, they still wouldn't get the cash. And all they are limited by is cash. So yeah, in terms of growth, all they're limited by is cash. But yeah.
So what was I saying? So
you're
board
saying
meeting, shareholder meeting. There's some timelines on that, because I think the shareholder meeting you have to give us 21 days or 3 weeks notice. So you could even actually work out a possible timeline on this happening, because if you look at so which dates we said? I think we said October 23rd last year was when was I correct? When I think they announced the dividend and or the board meeting, and then November in 2022. So you have somewhat of a timeline to say, okay, how fast can this happen? So yeah, I think it will be interesting. One of the things is that I remember when I asked Gary Peart, he's what's his official title at Mayberry now? CEO of Mayberry Investments or Mayberry Group. But I asked him at their investor briefing, the MJE investor briefing recently, how do they feel about the possible Ultra spin-off? And he was kind of sounded like half on it. He was like, yeah, but you have to kind of consider, is it best to just, you're selling a piece of the business and then equity is expensive because you can't really, it's hard, you can't really get it back. But yeah, I guess you can get it back. But, he was saying, but and then if you look at it, who is Dollar likely to use as its broker? The financial advisor, the investment bank would likely be Mayberry, because Mayberry affiliated companies are heavily in dollars, and Dollar has been, Mayberry even did a bond for them.
Yeah.
They did a bond for them recently, and they upsized. I think they were initially trying to raise $1 billion. Then they said, okay, let's raise 1.5 billion. Everybody loves it. Then let's raise 2 billion, and they got it. So
yeah, we should show that clip, by the way, of Dan saying that. Dan Theox said it in a Mayberry Investor Forum. So yeah, you guys should check out that clip.
Gary, another question coming in online. What's your thought process about the prospects for Dollar and also the possibility of a spin-off of Ultra?
Dollar is just one of those companies that's so perfect and suited for the junior market. It has potential to grow in dividends. There's massive potential to grow from our capital perspective. It has Ultra. The challenge I believe that the directors of Dollar face is that, it's sexy to list a company, right? But in listing the company, you're giving up 20% of equity, minimum. The most expensive form of financing is equity because it's perpetual, right? So if you list Ultra at this point in time, when it is at the very early stages of its growth and expansion, you're giving up 20% into perpetuity. So as a shareholder of Dollar, it might serve our interests better to keep Ultra where it is, because you get more value by keeping. You get more value as a Dollar shareholder to keep it. Once you list it, you sell that 20%, it's gone. It's gone forever to the Dollar shareholder, right? And if Ultra needs money, Ultra can borrow, or Dollar borrows, and you create significantly more value from that perspective. There are other opportunities out there. I think acquisition opportunities are out there for dollar to grow. I mean, right now, it is the fastest growing microfinance business out there, and it still is nowhere near its potential. So as Chris indicated earlier, they have a relatively young management team, but also very qualified and hungry in terms of hitting their KPIs and what they want to achieve. So I think leaving it as is and I think leaving it as is and growing, whether through acquisition or just continually doing what they're doing now. I mean, they currently, I think, Dan, you're raising a bond for them right now in the marketplace, for fixed income potential investors out there. I think that bond is yielding 12%. So that's a huge opportunity for potential fixed income people, especially at a time where we're expecting interest rates to go lower. And again, that just shows you another big benefit of dollar. I mean, the average rate at which they lend is 3 to 4 times above what their cost of financing is. So they can come to the market at 12. Investors can come in now just before interest rates fall. And the reality is that as you go into next year, they will benefit materially from falling interest rates. So, that's the reason we have it in the portfolio. And if we're able to get more shares, we'll add to the portfolio, because every different way you look at dollar, you just see opportunity and scope for growth.
But you should show that Guyana article too on that. I have it. You can check the Notion if you want. It's in the Notion.
What's the
title? Let me see. It's David Dollar raising $1 billion bond. David Rose actually wrote it September 27th. He was just talking about. There's quite a bit of things in there because, yeah, you're right. They were going for a 4-year bond, $1 billion Jamaican, and it could be upsized to 500 million. But Dan was saying that, they got so much traction. Yeah, they had to go back to the FSC and beg them to raise it to about $2 billion. We haven't really heard anything since that. Him saying that on the.
I think he didn't say that. He didn't say that the 2 billion was. They got the 2 billion.
I mean, if they're going for, they could have probably even gone for more than 2 billion at this point. But do you hear how great of a bond that sounded like? Like 12% over 4 years, paying quarterly interest. Right, that sounds like a great bond, and that's fixed. And I think there's so many points within them just doing that bond, because if you look at it, firstly, how much money have they raised so far? Dollar itself, they've raised $250 million Jamaican from their IPO back in May 2022, right? Because they created new shares. They created 250 million shares that were new at $1. So they got that. Then they raised 1.17 billion that same year as a private bond, right, on the JSE. Then now they raise another 2 billion from this bond by Mayberry. Do you think this bond is going to dollar? This bond money is actually going, part of it, at least maybe probably half of it, could be that $1 billion that David Enriquez is talking about raising for Ultra. You realize that, like, this could be like the Ultra bond, and people don't even really meds. They're just giving dollar the money. But if Ultra is the more profitable entity, why not shift a lot of that funds to Ultra? And that way they would have already hit their targets. They don't need to spin off to hit their targets of $1 billion loan book. They would have just collected it from that bond. And that way Dollar can get, Dollar Financial Services itself can get maybe 1 billion, and they can give another 1 billion to Ultra to unlend. And that way everybody's happy. And that's just more profits to them. So it's just crazy the magnitude, the gravitas of the growth of dollar at this point, because there's so many different ways they can spin it. And I can see why people love that bond, because even in it they had, I don't know if did you read like the term sheet of the bond? I was looking through the term sheet. Merchant did send me the term sheet, and they had I wish I knew more about bonds and invested in bonds. But there's a thing where it's like penalties, meaning they can't pay back that bond in the first year. And if they do it in the first 3 years of the bond, being, there's penalties, like they have to pay a certain amount. I don't think the term sheet said anything about the specific amount, but it's just, I don't know, man. Like the trajectory, the growth of dollar is just, it's insane. It's just insane to see how much money they're just raising, how much money they're unlending, how well they're unlending that money, right? They're quickly approaching Access's loan book. Let me just say that they're quickly approaching. I give them 1 more year, and they definitely beat Access's loan book. 1 year, just based on how aggressive Ultra wants to grow, them possibly spinning off, and so I give them 1 year, 1 more year, and that's very ambitious. But I know they can probably do it. So yeah. Can you imagine them doing a bond and it's a convertible bond? I doubt they would do it, but I feel like it's possible. Dollar could offer a convertible bond, like bondholders converting their bonds into shares of Ultra. That would be so sick. There's so many ways they could spin it. I don't think they would necessarily do it, but they could. If they were going for a really massive bond, I don't know.
I don't think I'd want that though.
I wouldn't want that either, because we're less likely to buy into that bond, to any bonds actually. But it's a possibility. I haven't seen it on our JSE. Maybe it's happened, but it's possible. But it makes sense. It, like the spin-off, splitting it makes sense. It's brilliant actually, and I think the thing that's the most outstanding thing is how quickly all of this has happened. Like, how quickly has Ultra been formed? It's just been 2 years that Ultra has been formed, and their loan book is already at $1 billion, possibly going to $2 billion, and they're possibly listing. Like, yeah, behemoth of a company. They're doing work down there. But yeah, that was just another point. And I guess the final point was even Dollar doing an equity raise. Like, I still don't rule out Dollar going back to the market to do an equity raise at this point. Because why not? Like,
how much room do they have to raise?
Right now, they don't have room, but if the limit gets raised to 750 mil, I would love to see a Dollar rights issue. I would love to see a Dollar rights issue. Right? I think the top 10 shareholders would also like to see a Dollar rights issue. Yeah. And then even when you look at the top 10 shareholders too, there's so many synergies with Dollar itself. Like, look at SVL. SVL also has a microfinance company, Michaela Financial. I'm surprised Dollar hasn't acquired Michaela yet. But there was even an article about SVL lending Dollar money, like $4 billion over some years, or billion, or maybe some amount of money. I don't remember what it was, but this was at the time that SVL bought their stake in Dollar, and it was saying that I need to find that article. It's somewhere online, but they were basically saying that over a certain amount of time, SVL would lend Dollar money, and it just makes sense because SVL is also like a cash business, right? It's betting. It's all cash. A lot of it is cash. So it would make sense that they have access to money. And if they already own this company that unlends this money at a nice rate, just take the excess cash, drop it in your company right here, right? You get paid back. I mean, it's almost guaranteed. Almost guaranteed. I always say almost. Nothing's ever guaranteed, but it just makes sense. Bro, Dollar is a crazy company. Crazy good company. Very exciting company. As them say, one to watch, right? One to watch. And we spoke so much about this company. I didn't realize how the time is insane. Guys, if you love this episode, please leave a comment. Tell us how you think they're going to spin off the company. I want to say, like, what do you think they would do? What would you guys like to see?
Off?
I feel like they said they would, so they would. I want to believe them. I I could just be a dreamer, but I want to believe them. So, yeah. All right, guys. Well, hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you guys so much. Right? And this is Tickers. Please subscribe. Send your friend them. Send your friend them. We're trying to hit our goals. You know, we're limit breakers here. But that's it. Limitless out.
Peace.